we know that AI has been in the headlines with it's actually been in the headlines for a long time, but most recently gotten a lot of attention with some of the chat GPT, et cetera. But I also came across something that I wanted to mention in the group today, and that's sort of, it took a while for us to get to this point. What's that next one going to be? And it's called organoid intelligence. Have you heard of this? So at Johns Hopkins, they're growing in a petri dish skin cells that have been altered to become acting like brain cells. And the idea here is that the brain is still, the pinnacle of computing power and can learn and contextualize in a way that AI now can't do. AI now can do amazing things, but there's things that the brain can do that it can't. So there's a lot of interest in, could you sort of hijack what the brain cell can do and create some other kind of higher level intelligence that theoretically can serve us. But I think I'd like to open it up to the floor as far as where could that go wrong, or how do we feel about that as humans to have brains kind of being grown. They've already done an experiment. You might have seen this where they let these cells learn the game of Pong. If you remember the old Pong game. And it actually learned Pong pretty well. And it's been sort of the first demonstration of how this can be harnessed. This is within our lifetimes, yes. It's not going to be like next year, that this thing's going to take a lot of development still, but
yeah.
Thoughts?
Well,
I have a question with that. So just posing this, if the brain matter or the thing is never connected to a real human,
right?
And there's never real human-centered
That's
connection.
right.
So then are we ever really connecting with technology? I don't think I don't think we can grow anything, right, that has no human connection and still call it human. So it'll never be the real thing. It'll always be,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a layer that's removed because it's learning, right? It's learning, but the question is how well does it learn? And then the question ends up being, if you think about technology, I remember in music, a music reference, there's like there's CD, there's your vinyl, there's your, transistor radio, whatever the case, and technology changes all the time, right? But then, there's a big thing when we go to the clubs and the file that you use, only probably 1% of the people can tell what the file actually is, right? Whether it was an MP3 or was it, a AIF or a WAV file, for instance, right? So this is very similar. What you're saying makes sense, but then after a while, if you cannot tell, there's an impact for that, right? You may, think about it. People produce all types of different things, right? I mean, just imitation watches, right? It's hard to tell imitation watch, right? So now this is just to the next level. If you have this organoid, right, that has the ability to actually learn with the brain and potentially tap in further than we as humans are able to tap into. So we may have a definition of what connection actually is, but what if when you tap further into your brain, connection means something further than you can even comprehend? And maybe that has the ability to do that. Now that's scary, and that goes all the way back down to trust, right? But that's how I would respond.
I think it also kind of will force us to claim and understand, what does it mean to be human? Is it about what we can think? Is it about what we do? Is it about something else? Is it about connection?
Is it how we feel?
Yeah.
Right? And as you were saying that, that's the first thing that I thought of, right? Is so if we can manufacture brain thinking, is that going to manufacture logic? Is that going to manufacture computing? What's that going to manufacture? Does that manufacture feelings, right? So
emotion. Yeah.
So if our feelings are not coming from our heart, they're coming from our head, right? Now that's a very interesting concept for us as human beings to learn from this. Let's say they decide to, everyone's afraid of it, like the machines rising from Terminator, and they scrap it. But what would be interesting is the learning from that to see what actually does come out of that, because what if is it our brain that limits our brain, or is it our emotion that limits our brain, right? Is it something beyond us? Is it something spiritual, right? That has us limited for a purpose or a reason, right? That's billions of people around the world meet religiously and contemplate these things. So is a very, very interesting